This is how the letters are similar. The B, the K, and the R all have similar features. So I'm going to draw them side by side so that you can see how each letter looks like others in the alphabet, in this particular alphabet, and actually in most alphabets. So I'm going to start by drawing the first part of the B, and the first part of the K, and the first part of the R. On the top of the B, there's sort of an S shape that looks like this. It's the same as the top of the B. Excuse me. The top of the B is the same as the top of the R. All three have a skeletal part that goes out like this. These two, the K and the R, sweep down like this. The B sweeps down like that too, but it actually connects down here. So the only difference between these three is that the K doesn't have this shape here. Instead, it just goes up like that. So this is what's called the bones or the skeleton. This is the terminology we're using because I want to relate it to cartooning later. Outside of the bones comes the muscles. So I'm going to draw shapes that look like they could be muscles on each one of these. I'm still drawing lightly for the most part, but I'm drawing a little darker because of the way the video records on here. Then there's this part. Notice the angle. So again, I'm going to surround that area. And I'm going to do that on all three so that you can see the similarities and the repetition that's happening. Repetition is one of our vocabulary words. This part's the same on all three. Just do a rectangle around it here, and here, and here. The K is a little different. It actually curves like this on the final piece. And then again, this part comes down the same on the B as it does on the K, and as it does on the R. And notice how I'm overlapping here. This almost looks like a B right here, but this is the way the letter is formed. The only difference between the K and the R from the B is that on the B it connects down here. So if you round this part down and round this part, don't forget to do the middle, surrounding it. So that's the basis of all these letters. I'm going to apply a little more pressure. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the original alphabet from the handout and notice the negative space. The negative space on the inside of the B and the negative space surrounding the B, as well as the K and the R. So once you get to this point where you've got the outlines, start noticing, for instance, on the B, it's not as sweeping as the one I've done. So I'm going to change it a little bit like this. And again, I'm darkening it in as I go. This one doesn't go up, it actually goes down here. So I'm going to take it at an angle. Go down here like this. This looks like an S if you look at just that line, and it ends up right here. So I'm going to practice this line softly first, lightly first, and then slowly darken it in. Please don't rush these letters. You hear me say this all the time. Don't rush your artwork. I would rather it were done well than done quickly. So again, it's rounded here, whereas it's sort of square here. So I'm going to do a light line to make sure I like the shape of it. And then once I like the shape of it, I'm going to darken it in. The rest of it, you can't see it because it's behind the A, but because of the structure and how we understand the structure, like you see the side of the H here, the side of the H is probably very similar to the side of the B, except for it doesn't have this little piece sticking out. So I'm just going to go around like this and darken it in around. It's okay if you miss a little bit, like I did just there, because after you darken it in, we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing on everything else, which is to do a dark line all the way around it to finish it up. Now here's where my structure really helps. In order to get the shape of the negative space on the inside, it's really right about this big right here. You can see the construction lines. So that's the inside of the B. The outside, or the inside of the bottom part of the B, again, it follows this structure, and you can see from my construction lines that it goes like this. So you have to be careful when you're doing this to not just outline the letters like I did originally when I first started drawing some of these. This was one of my first A's, because all I did was I outlined the shapes. And it's a cool looking letter, but what we're trying to do is match this artist's letters. So you can see there's some differences here again on this sweeping part here. The angles, the size of certain things. Before you can start making it your own letters, I want you to try and duplicate what this artist has done. So that's the basic B. The K and the R are going to be very similar. The only differences are this part comes in here like this. I'm going to start from here so that you can see where this overlap works. And again, my pausing in between is because I'm glancing back and forth between the letter here and my paper. Since they're the same, I'm going to go ahead and do the R also at the same time. So it comes around like this. This one doesn't go up. Again, it goes down like this. The negative space in here is really tight. So I'm going to make it just as tight on mine. The other thing that drawing these shapes helps with is to get the width of the letters consistent. This one isn't going to be way out here. It actually should be about here. So again, I'm going to do a curved line. I'm going to practice it first. Maybe make it go out a little bit more, as I notice it goes out a little bit more here. And then once I've got the shape right, then I can darken it in. Please don't darken it in too quickly. This is what I want to see on your work. I want to see that you're following the procedure, that you're following the guides, so that the letters turn out looking the same. Down here, it sort of curves. Sort of a small curve there, and then this one curves back up like this. And again, practice it before you commit to it. Now the R has all of these features, but it has this one from the B. So again, right here at this little spot, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go up like that. I'm going to angle it down, and again, I want to draw it first lightly so that I can make sure I have it right. Do the little sweeping S turn. and then go in and darken it in. It's important that you follow these steps so that your letters look consistent. So this again looks exactly like the K. Notice the little overlap here. Angles here. Swoops down like this and curves at the bottom here. And then there's a curve here also. And once again, the R has a very tiny, what's called a bowl. This area on the inside of the letter is called a bowl. So this is a bowl, that's a bowl, that's a bowl. This one kind of is too, even though it's the letter that's, this part of the letter's in front of that part. So it's not actually an entire bowl, but it looks like one. So that's how you take one letter, the letter B, and then notice other letters in the alphabet that are similar. The B in here is probably a little fat. I'll probably redraw that one because I didn't like the way it looked. But the structure is there. And here again, please don't erase. I want to see all of your construction lines. If I don't see your construction lines, I can't see where you might have gone wrong in doing the letter. I definitely need to redo this B because it's probably more like this. Now it's starting to look like the same width, and maybe even this part. You can see where I did the construction line there. So I need to make this part a little thinner, that part thinner, and obviously this part thinner as well. So please don't get frustrated. First of all, don't get frustrated if I ask you to do something again. I want it to be right. And secondly, don't get frustrated or angry if I ask you to do it more than once, because in order to get this right and to do it well, we'll be doing it more than once. We'll be doing the alphabet at least twice.